Okay, so let's start with the session. Last session, we were discussing about EL expressions, and which basically means that expression language, and that was introduced in JSP 2.0. Okay, and last time we only had the introduction. We discussed about the how to write it, which is basically dollar, and then within curly braces you give the expression name. Okay, so that's how you give the JSP expression and the expression language form. And the benefit of using this one is, and the benefit of using this one is, let's say most of the code which is dynamic content we write using scriptlets. Okay, and this scriptlets is Java code. So to avoid writing this, to avoid having as much Java code as you can possibly avoid, we have this expression language thing. Okay, now not an expression language, but there's some other stuff as well, like you can add your custom tags, etc., which has been out there for this expression for reducing the scriptlet code. Okay, and which is a dynamic code, basically the Java code which you write there. Okay, so let's move forward and see. This is how you give it. Like, this is the HTML part. Okay, like UL, LI, name, address, etc., or GSP include, and then you give the actual expression name. Okay, using dollar expression. Now, what is the value of the expression? What value it will print? We'll see slowly. Now, EL stands for expression language. It was introduced by JSP specification 2. It helps in accessing dynamic data, okay, and arithmetic and logical expressions. You can create both. The syntax we already saw. Now, if you remember JSP, it has some implicit objects. So the meaning of implicit objects is that some of the objects are already available to a JSP. You need not create a new one or try to get a reference to it. So the new ones, so the ones which are already which the JSP has reference to is like request, session, page context, application. So these are some of the stuff which are already available. Don't get confused with the objects which are implicitly available to a JSP and the objects which are implicitly available to the expression language. They most of them are the same, but there can be difference. So the list of the implicit objects which is available to a JSP and which is available to a JSP expression language can differ. In fact, the name surely differs, because there in the case of JSP the name is page context, request, session, application. Here the name is page scope, request scope, session scope, and application scope. Okay. So these are some of the implicit objects which are available to the JSP EL. So this means that you need not create any specific object if you want to get anything from this list. Okay, and from the request, most of the time what you're doing request.get parameter, request.get parameter value. So it means that any data which you write JSP for. So you have this the data which you want to get from the UI, right? Now the data which you get from the UI, and for that, I think in the last class also we saw that we have input tags, etc. And the name of the input tag will be like, say, first name, last name, username, password, and this is how your own the assignment which you are working on will be having similar fields. So when the request actually reaches, so when the request actually reaches a servlet, these values, the username, password, etc., which is because of the input tags, these values are set in the request object. Okay, and if you want to retrieve these values, what are the ways? You can do request.get parameter, get those values, or do request.get parameter value and get the value. So that's how it works. Okay, and that's why the EL language, the expression language, gives you these values, the param and param values object, to get the values from the request. So param is equivalent to getting request.get parameter, and param value is getting request.get parameter value. So if you have to access a parameter named name, say like say the thing is, if you go here, say your tag, the JSP tag is the type text, okay, and the name itself is name, okay, and maybe there's some default value which is not a mandatory tag. You can have it, you can also avoid it, okay. So mandatory value, like the default value can be like say Abhishek, okay. Now once you get to the servlet, this value is actually set in the request object. That's how the browser is sends it. You can do request dot get parameter, okay, pass the name of the input tag, and get this parameter value. So this is how you can write it out, okay. Now using expression language, you can write it like this. So basically you go here, say dollar, alright, param, this basically means request dot get parameter, then give the actual name within it, and then close it. The actual name in our case is name. It can be anything else, it can be first name. In that case, you have to go and change here to first name. Alright, so this is how it works. So, and the thing is that once you set the values in the request, I mean right now since we are getting the values there, so it's not used, but what if you set the values in the servlet, okay, and you're loading a success.jsp page where you have to load the name. You have to show congratulations Abhishek, or congratulations Raghav, congratulations Usha, so that name is dynamic. Alright, so if that name is dynamic, we need to have, we need to show it in the JSP, right? So our success.jsp will be something like say inside the HTML tag, if I go, and here we'll be having the head, and I assume that you guys have some reference, so you must be knowing about HTML. If not, you can go back and read a bit about it, okay. In fact, you should do some pre-reading as well. You can read about HTML5. That's the latest thing in HTML. That will give a lot of ideas, a lot of features like which has been introduced in HTML5. So if you want to say congratulations, you say congratulations, and then you want to display the name, and in the servlet, you have set the value in the request object. So here you can refer it using dollar. In fact, dollar param name. Something like this. So here we are using expression language, right? If we were not using expression language, what was the way out? We should have used scriptlets in that case, okay. So like this. So this is how you have to write. So in small cases like this one, it's okay, but think about scenarios where you have the HTML tags and then you have the scriptlet starting and it goes on for 10-15 lines, and then again you have something in between, then you have some HTML tags, and again you have some scriptlets. So even though although we've tried our best, and if you remember in last class also we discussed about a bit about how we have model view controller architecture, which basically is using string MVC or maybe struts MVC, but that's how it is. But anyways, I mean, even after so much of clear cutting concerns that the controller will handle the information which will be sent to a servlet, it will be the orchestrator of the business logic. View will be basically a GSP page, and the model will be the data. So even after having so much of clarity, all right, uh, yes, even after having so much of clarity in the GSP, we have to write the scriptlets, etc., which actually clutters the code. And to help with that, expression languages, custom tags, etc., come into picture. Anyways, you understood why we use expression language, right? So that's how the information is. And again, I mean, request has two parts, right? The HTTP request which comes in has the header and the main body. So the main body has parameter, etc., and the top end, I mean the header values, etc., whatever is the header information, like which browser you are using, etc., etc., which browser you are using will go in the user hyphen agent key value, key. So this will contain what is the whether it is Mozilla or IE or Safari, this particular user agent will have the value. So again, an expression language has this header implicit object where you can use header and then give the name of the user agent or whatever values you're trying to access. So note one thing, that this header implicit object, this is not available in a JSP. It's only directly available. Obviously, a request object, so you can go and try to get header from it. But it is not available directly. Okay. So this is what we have for expression language. Now, one example we discussed, but anyways, let's see. This is a scriptlet. You do out.print title. So this is out.print title. Okay. Now we are having. If you want to get the user agent, see again dollar header user agent, and that's how we define the name as well. Right? Dollar header name. And here we are having Mozilla and other such information as well. It contains all the browser information because browser is a user agent in this case. Okay. Now there are a number of EL implicit objects. Let's have a look at it. Okay. So page scope we discussed when there was page scope which I had mentioned earlier, which contains all the attributes within set within the page scope. Then we have the request scope, which is basically the HTTP request object reference. Alright, then you have session scope, which basically is all the value which is stored in the session. Then you have application scope, so which are the values which are set at the application level. Param and param value set is basically equivalent of getting request.get parameter. Header and header values are equivalent to getting request.get header. Alright, if you want to get the cookies information which we drop on the user's PC, then use just the cookie implicit object. Alright, and if you remember, JSP has the servlets has init hyphen param tags, right? If you see the web.xml, so if you remember, the web.xml has something of the sort of web.xml had one tag as init hyphen param, and this is not within so this is not within the servlets, this is outside servlets. So in that case, remember in servlets we used to have an object which used to represent this, okay, all the values which are there for the initialization. Do you remember what are those values? I mean, what is the name of that particular object which stores the value which we have within init-param? In fact, I am sorry, this init-param is the one which is within the servlet. Alright, so this is within the servlet. In fact, the other one which is context-param is outside the servlet. So in the servlet world, we have an object which represents this one, and we have an object which represents this one. So can you please name that for me? Like, what is the object name here? And what is the object name here? Please, I need answers for this one. Can you let me know? Guys, whoever has an answer, please unmute yourself and let me know. And if there are no volunteers, let me pick. Yes, so you have servlet config will be the object which will represent this inhabit param, okay, and then the context param will be represented using servlet context, correct. So that's how the reference is. So now coming back to our expression language, so we have to get this init param as well, we have an implicit object. All right. Okay. So this is what we have, the implicit objects which are there at the expression language level. And expression language, if you want to disable, remember there are page directives which starts like in JSP itself, which we discussed I think in last class, which starts like this. Okay. So once you write like this, that becomes a page directive. So there is a page directive where you can give whether the what is the error page of the, or whether this is an error page or not. And for JSP EL also, you want to disable it. The way is to put is EL ignored as true. You can go here, put is EL ignored is equal to true, and that will be used in the JSP. So anywhere you have used EL in that JSP, that will not be used. Okay, so this basically is a way for JSP to disable EL tags. Alright, you need not do this. This is just an option available to you. Okay. So another thing which you would have already noticed is that EL expression language, you can use it to get the values from the request, session, etc., but it's not used to set any values. You can only get the values. Alright. And again, as I told earlier, the EL object, the EL implicit object, is different from the JSP implicit object. Although like, most of them matches up, but it's the same. It's actually different objects. And you can use even the EL functions to call methods from the Java class. Alright. So now come to the so JSP. So EL we discussed about the expression we can give. Now you have some operators to access the attributes within the bean. So bean basically means the POJO. POJO stands for pure old Java object. So this is a a concept or a word which you hear most often. Like people talk about, let's write a POJO for this, why to do so much of drama, blah blah blah. They basically just mean that why you're trying to write so much of work, just write one plain class. Alright, so and that in JSP world basically means a bean. The implicit objects means implicit beans. So one of the implicit beans is request scope, right? So say if we have stored an entire object employee within the request scope, and here we want to access the address which is a sub object within the employee. So that is which is one of the references, one of the objects within the employee. That can be referenced using request scope dot employee dot address. Again, you put it in this one. So dot operator basically means that you don't have to go and do request dot get parameter employee dot, then again get the value dot get parameter address. You can just access those attributes directly by using dot, which is in the sense that you write something like request scope dot employee dot address. Alright, and if there is a collection, so you have more than one element, right? So you can access the particular element using like this bracket symbol, and you put 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to access. Okay. And say if you, when it gives you option, the yield, you can, instead of writing 1, 2, 3, you can give the expression. The only thing is that the expression will first be evaluated, and that has to obviously go back to and get us a particular value. The key, which in this case will correspond to a particular value. But in the case of list, if even if you give expression, it's not going to give any errors. All right, but it has to be. Like once the expression is evaluated, it has to be a number. Otherwise, at runtime, you will get some error. All right. Then you can have listing, like the nesting as well, which basically means that first you get element from one of the list, then use that as a key for the map. All right. Since we are discussing about this stuff, and I think it's time that we try to correlate all these things. I just wanted to check with all of you, what is the difference between hash map and set, like between the map and set interfaces, like when in fact list and set. So when do we use list, when should we use set? And I think we discussed this in our sessions regarding core Java. So what is the difference between list and a set? Any volunteers for this one? I'm just trying to go back and forth so that you have a reference. I ask you ample questions that you understand it. List can repeat, that's true. That is basically true. So set is having unique elements, okay, and list can have non-unique elements. The other difference, which it's not a difference, you have the way to order is set doesn't have order. For set to have an order, you need to use specific set. So list is basically ordered in the sense that the way in which you add data. Alright, tree set is just an example of set. In that way, you have a list as well. You can make a list which is, list is just an interface, right? So you can provide an implementation where you sort out unique, so give only unique elements. So that I will not consider that as a basic difference at the interface level. However, that is valid at the class level which you are saying. So list is basically ordered. So the way in which you add data is the way in which you'll see the data. But in set, a set as an interface is not supposed to guarantee you that behavior. So it can be the same, it can be different. Alright. So that behavior is not guaranteed. Although you can get that behavior using say linked hash. So linked hash, the order in which you insert or the order in which they are linked together, you can have the order. Alright. But it's not, it's not which is guaranteed at the very base level, the set interface level. Okay. And I also want other folks apart from Aarti also to answer. Alright. You can in fact unmute yourself and ask. And one more thing which I wanted to say was, if you have any questions regarding what I'm teaching, like right now, please feel free to interrupt me, and you can ping me, and I can ask you to ask you the question at that moment itself. If not understood, ask me at that time itself. Alright. So please feel free to come back and ask at the same time also, so that we know that what's going on. If you don't understand that, what is the reason behind it. Okay. So let's go back to our slide. So this is what we're discussing. So we can have a scenario where we're first trying to get data from the list, and then we are using that as a key to get the data from the map. So this is what is known as nesting. Alright. So, and there can be scenarios where you can put the request name itself as the parameter name itself as dot, maybe name dot last name. This is a parameter name. There's no need for you to do this, but you have done this for whatever reasons. So if your name is such that name dot say last name, in that case you can't use dot operator because your original attribute itself has this dot. Alright. So in that case the dot operator is not used. You need to use something else, which we'll see later. Okay. Now, apart from this logical operations or for this map, list, etc., the expression language, the JSP expression language, also supports the arithmetic operators such as plus, minus, multiplication, division. All these things are supported. Alright. And the logical operators, like say and, this double ampersand is and, then the pipe symbol is or, and then you have not as exclamation mark. Alright. So this thing is valid in case of Java as well, like you write it like this only, and then you have I mean and is also like and is like this here. Now coming back to this one, so you have relational operators supported are like this was a logical operator, this was arithmetic operator. Relational, like how the objects or how it is related, whether it is equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than equal to, or less than equal to. So those relational operators supported by JSP have been defined here, and that's what we discussed also before. Alright. Now you have the precedence, like which one has a higher precedence. So first of all, it is unary, then division, then plus minus, then this relational operator. So this is a precedence order, which basically the high level you can just remember. If you remember what we had in our like in our schools earlier, if you are following this BODMAS rule in bracket of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, I think you'll be good. So it basically follows the same BODMAS precedence in one way or the other. Alright. And anyways, the production level code which you write, most of that is not going to use or test you to write expression languages in such a way that your precedence knowledge is tested, because your idea of writing those code is not to get this is not to test your expression language knowledge, but to get the code working right. In most of the scenarios you might not even go ahead about it. Alright, but just for reference I mentioned it here. If you want to use it, if you want to know about it, you can go ahead and check it out. Okay, now there are some reserved words which can't be used in the expression language, such as and, or, not, equal, EQ, any, etc. So these are already used in expression language. Alright, internally. Please do not use it in expression language which you write. Alright, and here is the list for it. Now let's see, there is one example which we have out here, so that we can see what are the way in which we can use the expression language. Alright, so see, this is a home.jsp, and if you see here, like once the body part starts, we are having some scripted to set the attribute names. Okay, now if you already had a servlet, and the servlet had set some values in your request, and if you want to access it, see dollar, then curly braces on and off, then you have this request scope dot person. Alright, so that's how you can access it. Now you can also do just dollar person. In that case, there should be some person being defined. Font size, this is a PDF, this is not exactly, I can increase the this one, but again it starts getting cut. Is this okay for everyone and are you able to see? So this person also will be referring to the, it so if you just directly write the bean name, it's referring to, first of all, it refers to the beans which are available here. So if you remember, we discussed about JSP colon use bean, right? Now, so similarly, it checks whether you have any bean available or not. So the request is one of the implicit objects where we also check whether we have the person object or not. If not, it gets created. So that's how the bean was, right? I think that the same way it follows here also. And then if you want to get some like say cookie information from the application scope, you can do that. Or say if you have an employee object stored, if which has another sub object address, and inside that if you have like say street name or city name, etc., you can like get those values using this dot operator, right? And the next example is for the list, right? So the list you can retrieve values using index, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc., that you can reference it in this way. Okay, and then coming back to header. So header again, header is basically equivalent to request dot get header. And earlier example we discussed, there we had user hyphen agent. Here you will have accept hyphen encoding. So whatever values are set at the request level, that can be retrieved here. Okay, and if you have any cookie information, like say user dot cookie, that can be referenced using just a cookie. And then you can get the request method as well, like page context has a reference to request. And in fact, you directly have the request object access also. You can directly do dollar curly braces on request dot method. That can also be done. And this method gets you whether it is a get method or post or whatever. Alright. And then you have, if you have stored in the init panel, which is within the web.xml at the servlet level, about the app ID, that you can do it here. And if you see here, we are using one of the arithmetic operators to print a value, and you can also like print whether it is true or false if the app ID value is less than 200, or you can use the arithmetic operation again and do a plus 200 and print it out. So this is what we had for expression language. Regarding the expression language, do you have any questions? Any questions regarding expression language, EL? Guys, any questions? Are you comfortable? Did you guys understand about expression language? Strong is one of the HTML tags, so that is basically a way to say it's sort of control B. That thing will be highlighted, it will be in bold. So that is what strong is used for. Folks, are you fine with expression language? Are you clear what it is, what it stands for? Usha, are you there?
Yes, Abhishek.
Are you fine with expression language? Do you
Yes,
understand the
I'm
concept?
fine. Yes,
Okay, okay, fine.
thanks.
So let's go back to the next one. So we essentially we're covering three topics. One is EL, which is expression language. Then we have the standard tag library which Java provides, which basically stands for JSTL. So JSTL is Java's standard tag library. And the third one, which we are still to deal with, is custom tag. Alright, so you can go ahead and write your own custom tag. So we'll deal about that one also. So coming back to JSTL, so this is a standard library. Whatever is available to you from beforehand. So for accessing the tags from here, you need not write your own custom tag from your end. All right, and this is used to reduce the use of scriptlets. Again, as I told before, everything which is discussed in this particular session is used to reduce the clutter, is used to reduce the use of scriptlet code. All right. And then JSTL, we have jars, right? So we have various jars. So why we have various jars? We could have put everything in one particular jar itself. So there are many constraints, such as the way in which we construct jars. It may be related to functionality, okay? It may be related to size, etc. But functionality plays a major role. So here, if you see for JSTL tags, also we have created different tags. One is the core tag, which contains like say normal utility functions. All right. So for any specific formatting related stuff, which is like say slightly advanced level, that goes into this JSTL formatting tags, Then we have this JSTL SQL, then we have JSTL XML and JSTL functions. So there are 5 categories, and similarly we'll have different jars also for that, which has to be included. Alright. So we'll discuss about them one by one. Now, see, to access any tag library, you have to add this tag library directive. Okay, we're discussing about JSTL core right now. So to access this tag library directive, you add to tag in your project. You need to add uh, the tag lib as such. All right. So you have added here tag lib URI, and then how to access it, the prefix. So this is how you define at the top. The example will show you here that you define the tag library, and then once it starts, if you have the tag, like say they are having if tag. So if they don't have the if tag, how will you work? So you will have to start a scriptlet, use a if else loop from Java. But to avoid that, you already have a tag, and you can go ahead and use C colon if. C is a prefix which you always have to define. So it means that when you're using C colon, it's basically referring to the tag which is defined using this one. Alright, and this URI is defined in the tag library project which you include. From there you can get a reference. Okay. So you do C colon if, then you give your test parameter, like what you want to test, what is inside the if block. Like say here we are checking for a parameter name, whether it is study tonight or not, and if it is, then you go inside this if block and print welcome to whatever is the value, and obviously it's entering because it is equal to study night, so you will print welcome to study night. So that's how it is. So this one was from the JSTL core. Now this is one of the examples, but there are other objects also which are available in JSTL core. The one which we saw above was if tag was available, then you have out tag which is used to validate expression and write the result to the JSP writer. Alright. So this is the out tag. Then you have this for each, which is basically advanced version of for loop. So that is also available. Alright. So here also you see you're doing C colon for loop. Then you have items, which is basically the array list which we have defined here. And when you not define it here, this is just an example, right? So this array list you could have created in the servlet itself and set it in the request attribute, and we could have accessed it directly here using request scope dot num list, something of that sort. So there is no need to create the specific array list here. You could have done that using expression language. You could have done creating it in the servlets, and you could have accessed it here. Alright, and then you have the var is equal to item, the var status is equal to status. Now what it stands for, if you see, so we are using a for loop, and inside that, if it is the last one, we are printing the item. So let's see one by one what are the things which are used here. So this items denotes the list or the object over which we need to iterate from the for loop. And then when you say for loop, and you have to maintain a sort of count, right, that this is the first iteration, this is the second iteration, or this is the last, that reference is given by var status, so it maintains a count. And if you see here what the var status, the value which we are using status to represent it. So here inside the if block we are using status at last. So only, I mean, it again gives you the way to access all this attributes, whether it's first, whether it's last, so that you can print it out and see the values, whether it's 1, 2, 3, etc. So that you can do. Okay, and then the actual variable, the actual item that can be accessed using this var tag, and you can do $item. Alright, so this is what gets printed. I mean, if it is it says that if it is only the last item, the last iteration, you print the value. So here you go ahead and print 3, which is the case here. So the status object which we're discussing, this one, the var status, it has number of methods. One which we saw above was last, which is basically is last. You can access the first one, alright. Then you can get the current value, you can get the index as such, you can get the count. So there are a number of attributes which it supports. which you can use it. Okay. So this was we had for JSTL. So this was about, say, sorry to go back above, but this was about the JSTL core tags. Now similarly we have for formatting to get SQL information, you have tags, and for XML, then for JSTL other functions. So I mean there's no like stopping the number of tags there. There are, I think, 40-50 tags. Uh, if you want information regarding all of them, you can go and read about them individually. Uh, if you have any questions, come back to me. We can discuss about it. Okay. So this was about JSTL. You have any questions on it? Java Server Tag Library. Do you have any questions on it? Are you guys comfortable with it? But you can ping me and say, I mean, I won't mind. So if you're, I'll, I'll, I'll take your, what do you say, silence that you've understood. So, yeah. The prefix in tag library is like, say, just try to think for a moment, see this particular example, and think that you have 15 different tag libraries which you have imported here. Now, how do you know when the tag which you are using, it's from where? It's from the first one or the second one or the third one. Okay, and it can so happen that different tag libraries have the same name. And this for each loop is within the this JSTL code tag list only, tag library only, but that is not a necessity. It can be in a different, different tag libraries can have the same tag. So in that way, how do you know that your code should use the which particular tag library? So to find that out in the tag library directive, we also give the prefix value. Alright. So saying that this particular, whenever you are using a prefix C in your code to access tags, we will go ahead and try to use the tag library which has been referenced here. Similarly, for all the other 19 tag libraries which I was just talking about, you can have different prefixes. So in your code, you'll use C colon for each or C1 colon for each just to refer to the different tag libraries. So prefix is a way to uniquely identify the tag library from where you want to get the data. Okay? Did I answer your question, Shala? Alright, any other questions? I assume that you guys are comfortable. If not, let me know right now itself. Like I can repeat it once. Alright, so I assume that you have understood it. If not, then let me know right now, okay? Okay, so I'll move ahead with the custom tags part. So now the thing is that, say, the tags which you have, alright, which the JSTL has provided you, that might not be enough to for all the scenarios which you have to cover. There can be like if you see scriptlets, that's not most of the time if else only, right? Some looping constraints. You can have your own, custom logic out there, which can be a bit complex to be represented using expression language. All right. So in that case, what do we do? So in that case, you have the option of writing the tags yourself, and you can go and write your own custom logic, which we think is a bit complex within that tag. So when I say within that tag, it doesn't mean that you go ahead and write that C colon if, and then between that if you start writing the code and then you end the if. That is not the idea. See, any tag, if you think rationally, at the back end, at the very base level, we have Java code. Alright, so we'll try and plug in the Java code there. So at runtime, it is being used. In JSP, you won't find any tags, any scriptlets as such, which will be introduced because of tags. So the idea is to reduce the clutter as much as you can. Alright. So is the tags provided by JSTL or not enough? You can create your own custom tags. There are ways to do it. One is that there's one tag handler class which you can use. Alright. And you have to write a tag handler class. To write that, so remember we had different ways to create threads. Similarly, to write this tag handler, we have different ways to write it out. We'll see those ways later, but here we're just trying to discuss what all things are required. So we require one tag handler class, and the tag handler class entry has to be there in the TLD file. Okay. Now this TLD stands for tag library, tag descriptor file, tag library descriptor file, where you specify what is the tag name, what is the tag handler, and what are the tag attributes. Alright. So the thing is that if you see whatever the for loop we're discussing here, C colon for each, and it can be V also, it depends on what you describe at the top, and then you have items. Alright. Then you have item, so which is var. Then we have var status, which was essentially to refer to it using status. So something of this sort was there, right? And then you have this tag, then you have some lines of code, and then you end this particular tag. Alright. And if at the top in the description, if you sorry, the tag library definition, you define the prefix as v, you can go ahead and use v, not a problem. Okay. It's just that the JSTL code tag, one of the common prefixes to be used is C. So it has become a sort of a de facto standard, but it's not any necessity. It doesn't stop you from using anything else, V, A, B, C, D, whatever you want to use. Okay. Now let's come back to our original discussion. So here we have these things, items, var status. So for this particular tag, which the name is for each tag. Okay. So if you see here, the name is for each tag, and this is essentially the tag name. Then the backend there would be a class which would be having the they working for it, I mean the code logic, and then items, var status, they are the various attributes which you have. Alright, so this is what we have. So again, like, let's go back and see the tag library descriptor, what we define. So we define the tag name, which in our case is for each. Then you define the tag handler class, which you need not define it here because you already have it done, but you need to define which class will take care of this handler class, right? Which will take care of this tag name. And then you have tag attributes, which in this case was var status, var item. So these are attributes. So your tag can have attributes. There are chances that your tag may not have attributes, right? So anything of this sort is defined in the TLD file. So once you make an entry in the TLD file, you write your own tag library descriptor. You can use it in your JSP page. Okay. So let's see how we have done it for one of the tags. So see, the tag on the very base level is it is represented using an interface which is javax.server.jsp.tagext.tag interface. Alright. If not tag, then you can use this body tag interface as well, which basically implements interface. So this is, you can say, inheritance hierarchy. Alright. You use this tag interface and you have like normal function, but sometimes within the tag you can write your own code as well, right? Like not within for each, but say within, I create my own custom tag, like say, and that the prefix I put as T colon Abhishek is a tag. Alright, and that can be done. I mean, it's not that it can't be done, it can be done. So that's how you have written it. Alright, and within this you have some code, whatever, you have some message. So this message, if you need the reference to, you have to use a body tag. Body tag extension, right? Otherwise, you have to use a tag interface. Okay. And for these interfaces, we already have one class which has implemented there. So in case of tag interface, you have the tag support class. In case of body tag extension, you have the body tag support class. Alright. So we already have one implementation for them. Now the tag interface defines the like the basic in a way of interacting between the JSP and the tag handler. Okay, and I mean it's a sort of a contract. That was what defines the basic way of communication, right? Basic protocol. So it's any interface is called as a contract. So in this case also the tag interface defines that contract. It has number of methods which we can use. All right. Now before, like once you use this tag, when this tag is encountered by the JSP pages servlet as such, all right, there are number of uh, methods internally which it calls before invoking. So here the idea is that it calls, like say, before calling the do start tag, it invoke the JSP page calls the set page context, so that the page context is available in the tag. Then it calls the set parent. If any parent tag information is there, then that is set in this particular tag. And if any attribute, whatever attribute you have defined, like say var status, items, etc., those attributes are saved uh, in the tag, and then the do start method is called. So basically, if you go inside these tags, all right. So there are two basic methods which are implemented. One is do start tag, all right, and one is do end tag. So it means that it's just a reference of saying that once you encounter this tag for the JSP, so once you encounter this tag, what is the first piece of work which you should do? And when you encounter the end, that means that this tag is going to end now. What work should you do? So it's basically event-based mechanism where the JSP as such knows that when the tag is starting and when the tag is closing, I can have some logic on the basis of that. Okay. And this is what I have defined here also, like all the attributes are set. Before that we have page context setting, then you have attribute setting, then you have do start tag, do end tag, and then release any memory, etc., or any, I mean, whatever is the normal stuff to get released. So basically making it available for garbage collection. So that's what release does. This is a normal sequence, invocation sequence. Think that you just use a tag as some of the examples we gave above on for the use of JSP core tag. You need not worry about this stuff, but just for your knowledge, I explained what like before invoking this tag, what will work the JSP pages server does in the backend. Okay, so that you are aware of the some of the core concepts. All right. So the JSP pages servlet also guarantees that release will be invoked in the tag handler before the end of the page, which is out there. The release is the last one. Alright. So, and the order it is we have dealt with. But let's come back to the tag handler class. So see here, so simple tag support is the one which already implements this tag interface. Alright. And once you extend this simple tag support, it implements one of the basic methods. Alright. So if you just want to say that when this tag is encountered, what work should you do? You can just, in this overridden method, you can just go ahead and write whatever you want. Alright. So you have the reference to JSP context from here. We can use that using get JSP context. The out object you can get a reference to, and using that out object you can write in the console that this is my own custom tag or whatever. Now web.xml is present within webin folder. Same is the case with TLD file. For this custom tag, if what we have written here, details, you can define uh, the name etc. in the TLD file. So I have this message.tld. I define the tag name as myMSG, and then I define the tag class, which is the details thing which you saw above. And again, I mean, this is a body content. It means that there is no content expected within the body tag. Alright, that is what it stands for. So this is the definition. This is how you define in the TLD file. So yeah, and that's where the definition of the body content comes from. So anything besides comments and ignorable white spaces which come between the start and the end tag, that is the body content. And while defining the tag itself, you can say the body content as empty, or you can say there are other options as well which you can specify, that whether it is scriptless or whatever. So when you say the body content as scriptless, it means that you have some body content, but that will not be having the scriptlet code. That is what is meant by scriptless. So the one of the tags, one of the values of the body content is scriptless. The other value is empty. Okay. Yeah, so the body content can be there. In that case, you can just write like to allow JSP, alright, or to allow tag dependent content also you can allow. So that's three different things. You can enforce empty content by saying empty. You can allow like say a scriptless tag, which is basically saying that you will not have any scripted code that that person thing, but you can have normal code, the normal way in which I would define here. It can be out there, okay, but you can't have the scriptlets as such. This is enforced when you're using the body content which was there in the TLD file as scriptless. Alright, so you can't use this thing if you use a scriptlets as I described like earlier in the WordPad. In that case, I mean, if you use scriptlets, you will get an error. Okay, so like say some of the simple tags, like say which implement the tag interface, such as tag support, or say simple tag support, which one of the examples which you saw above, that ignores the body content. It doesn't have to like deal with it, and that's why they only have one tag, which is do tag, because I mean they can before start and end they can only do one work, right? So they only have one interface provided to, I mean only one method provided to run the show, because you don't have much processing to be done there. But if you want some work to be done for the data which is stored within the body, you can use this body tag support. Okay, and the body tag support it can refer to the body content, alright, and that will be available to you. So the methods in the tag handler class are related to various parts of the tag. Like say when you are opening the tag, as we discussed about do start tag. So when the tag is first encountered, do start tag will be called. When the tag is getting closed, do end tag will be called. And if you have extended this body tag support, will be like you want to do something for the body part as well, right? The information which you have put within the tags. For that also you can use this do init body, or you can use this do after body. So do init body is that before actually working on the body, what work needs to be done, and when you have done with that work, like afterwards what needs to be done. So that is defined using do after body. Alright, so let's go through it and see if this is what we have covered everything here. The methods within the tag handler class are related to various parts of the tag. Thus, there is a method to handle the opening tag called the do start tag. There is a second one which is the do handle tag. And if a tag has attributes, you have the setter and getter methods in the tag handler class to handle it, and you have obviously a method to access it. If the tag has a body, there are two other methods which handle it, which is do init body, do after body. Okay. So each method can return certain final static constants to see like how it has worked. So say 0 for success, 1 for failure, something of that sort. So it returns certain final static constants to control the sequential execution of these methods. Because all of these have to execute sequentially, right? That the start tag method has to get executed first, then the do init body, then do after body, then the do end tag. So to coordinate that from one tag, one class do start tag, it has to go. From one method do start tag, it has to go into the other one. Uh, for that, it returns static constant, and that's how the core tag library framework uses the static constant to figure out that this execution is successful. Now I need to go to the next one. Okay, so there are some final static constants to use to control that sequential execution. All right. Now again, I mean, more work has been done here to let you understand how it works. So everything between the opening and closing tags to the custom JSP element will be evaluated into the current output stream object. So you can the current output stream object, that is the out object, which is available in the JSP. You can use that to get the values which was within the body context, the body content part. Now, the JSP is, you must be knowing, it stands first of all for Java Server Pages, and second of all, it gets translated into servlets. Now, the tag handler class, if you're using it, it has to be instantiated somewhere, right? You have used the tag in the JSP, but somewhere down the line, it has to, the Java code has to get invoked. And for that Java code to invoke, we need to first instantiate the tag handler class, alright? And that is done within underscore JSP service method of the servlet. So when we are compiling JSP to servlet, and I think we have discussed it before, there's one method JSP init, which basically runs at the initialization of the JSP. Then you have JSP service, which has most of the work here, and then you have underscore JSP destroy, where you go ahead and destroy the JSP in the sense that if you have any open memory objects which needs to be closed, etc., I think you can go ahead and close it out from here. Okay. Now that is for where the tag handler instance has to be created, and the tag handler instance, that can be referred from the page context also. The tag handler has a reference to the page context. So within the tag handler, you can use this get JSP page context, alright, the method which we saw above, and that we can use for getting the reference to the page context. And once you have the reference to page context, from the page context you can get the request object, from the request object you can get the session object. So most of the stuff you can access using the page context object itself, alright. And then the tags can be nested as well. You can have one tag within another tag, alright. And if the nesting is done, alright, if the nesting is done, then the parent tag contains a reference for the tag which is nested within itself. Okay, and yeah, that's how it is. And if in the case of nesting, remember we discussed about application scope object. So application scope object can be used to define some attributes only at the application level, and the tasks can use them as well. So if they have to communicate some information between them, they can use the application scope for that. Alright. Okay. So sometimes if you want that the body tag should not be evaluated, like in the core implementation itself, depending on certain condition, and I've just put it here, directly, but maybe on some condition, you can just say return skip underscore body. So that in certain cases the body content is not evaluated at all. Alright. So that can be done. So you can remember the static final constants which we were discussing before, that can be controlled. What you want to send back. It is not necessary that it will send whatever you, as the internal code. You have a control of it, because once you implement this simple tag support or body tag support, you have a reference to get the the actual static final constant which is getting sent back, and you can use it. Okay. Again, the same so tag library we defined, right? So for JSP course we defined, same thing as for this one. You define the URI, you define the prefix from your own side, and then using the prefix you can access it. Like for example, you see here. So URI is basically location. So you are saying that within Webin you have this message.tld, and the prefix which you defined here is my prefix. So remember, this is a custom tag. This is not a Java standard tag library. So again, I mean, even for custom tag, you need to define the prefix. You define it here, and then you go inside the body. You define the my prefix. You call my message, and in that case, the details class which we wrote earlier gets executed. So if you have once it gets executed, once this page gets loaded, this is my own custom tag gets printed. Okay, so that's how your custom tag works. You can have more complex logic, but on high level, this is how it works. So that's why I've tried to make you understand from here. And the package name, so there is a particular package, right, where you have the tag interface, you have the body tag interface, etc. So the tag asset is present within javax.servlet.jsp.tagext package, the tag interface. And the body tag interface which we discussed earlier, some of the methods which it has is do init body, do after body, which we had discussed before. And if you want the entire and do init body, is basically that before invoking the body content, you can have some work on it. And then you have set body content, where you set the body content somewhere for the tag handler class to refer to it, and then you have this do after body as well. So let's see the typical invocation sequence. So one is that once the start tag is called, this T is a tag handler class. So one is the once the do start tag is called, after that you get the reference to the out object, and then you have the set body content, and you need not do all this thing. The JSP page servlet itself does this for you. So you have this set body content. Once the body content is set, you do some initialization code, which is referred using do init body, and once that is done, you can do after body as well, and after that you end the tag, and then you remove the body content from the page context object, alright, and then release the tag for further any memory constraints, etc., which are there. To release those memory management stuff, we use this release method. This is basically the JSP pages servlet code, the tag handlers code as well, where t.release basically refers to the tag handlers code, but like most of it would be given by the now the interfaces, the classes which are defined, like simple tag support or body tag support. The implementation, release, etc., they only give. Most of the times we do not write it. Although if you want, you can nullify the objects and make it available for garbage collection, release connections if you are holding on to the DB connection, etc. That can be done from your custom code. Normally that's not the practice. We do not do in that way, but if required, that can be done. So this is all about the custom tags. Alright, did you guys understand like this particular part? So I guess you guys have understood the custom tag part. Alright, so if not, do get back to me. If you're not interested, you can tell me right now as well. I can discuss some of the portions again. So you guys are comfortable? Understood? Yes, no? Okay, so I assume that you guys have understood. If not, you can get back to me. We can discuss in much more detail. Now here we have questions. So some of the questions I've put forward, please work on it. Alright. Some of the like say based on the JST etc. I've given a number of questions here. Please go through it, answer them, get back to me, and we can discuss. Alright. So this is all about EL expression, JSTL, and custom tags. Alright. So next class we'll discuss about the project which we have already like the team have already assigned in the last class. I hope you guys have started working on it. Alright. The session wise, I mean, there is no extra sessions planned for core Java as such. I mean, during the normal covering of the course itself, we are supposed to work on the assignments, and that should have covered the practical sessions. So, if you have any questions regarding like if you have not understood anything, or if you have problems regarding writing, and code etc., uh, you can come back to me. We can discuss in that part. But essentially, those assignments should serve as a practical purpose. So you should be able to write code from there, and that's why I'm stressing on those uh, sessions a lot. I mean, those assignments. But once you do it, you'll get a hang of it. Okay. Coming back to this project assignment, uh, like, see, what is the update on that? Have you guys started working on it? Remember the last class we had the uh, team divided to work on database part, servlet part, JSP part. We also discussed a bit about uh, we also discussed a bit about the data, the tables, etc., which we need. So, do you have any updates